Big truss.
Welcome back. It's Rough Draft Research time.
Woohoo! Yahoo!
We here with the boys. That includes me. I'm also one of the boys. But I'm not a guru. That's what we got Christian here for. That's what we got Daniel here for. So,
Kind of. Thought it was for looks.
Hey, just don't review the episodes. Believe what I'm saying. Just kidding. We got a lot of bangers out there. We've hit a lot of bangers. But this week, we're not going to be talking about college players.
Nope.
NFL, current NFL playoff teams. We're going to be talking about some coaches. And who needs coaches? Bad freaking teams, man.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting. Yeah, it's the coach. It's like the top of the pyramid. You know what I mean?
Well, it's almost. He's still got...
No.
GM.
Oh, he's the top.
Coach, quarterback. The rest is just people getting paid to go to meetings.
Yep. And when the coach and quarterback don't do too hot,
one of the asses gets fired.
One ass gets fired.
It's typically the coach.
But not always.
Not always.
In this case, we'll start with the Washington Commanders, where the coach is still there, and the quarterback got fired. 3 of them got fired.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, because they already named Sam Howell the starter for next year, right?
I think they named the last game. I didn't know if they did it for the next.
I thought they did because I remember thinking like, "Do you need to make that call right now?" Like,
hell yeah.
Why did you need to say that, Ron?
That's some weird shit right there.
Ron says a bunch of weird shit.
He does say a bunch of weird shit.
Trust the process.
But right now they have a offensive coordinator job opened up. They fired Scott Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Is he gone?
Norv Turner's son.
Yep, he's gone.
Swerving Norv.
So I'll kick it over to you boys. What do you got to say?
I mean, I feel like Scott Turner's a little bit of a scapegoat here, in my opinion. Like, I don't know, you bring in Carson Wentz after what he did in Indianapolis, and you try to run the ball first, and everyone on earth can see that Antonio Gibson is your best running back, and you insist on playing Brian Robinson. All this stuff, and like Ron still has a job, Ron Rivera, great career, well respected throughout the league, obviously, but it just seems odd that like he kept his job, but then the offensive coordinator didn't. But it's not like the Commanders' defense was amazing, which is kind of like what Ron is supposed to do. And then the offense isn't great. And then all the personnel decisions he made were weird. Benching Taylor Heineke to start Carson Wentz just for him to throw 3 interceptions so that you get knocked out of the playoffs, which you didn't even know you could. Like, it's just it's just a mess. So I feel like he's getting a little scapegoated here. But that being said, it will be exciting. Sam Howell looked good in Week 18, like fun, at least exciting. And then hopefully whoever the offensive coordinator can bring in, we can use these running backs more effectively, get Gibson a lot more points, and use Brian Robinson more where he should be, like in a short yardage situation, goal line situations, more effectively like that. Stop using him as a 3-down guy.
Yeah, we'll see who they bring in, but I mean, the potential in this offense is extremely high. So, Sam Howell, sure, let's make it work. Bring in maybe somebody else, see what happens. I'm all for it. But there's a lot going on in this offense, especially fantasy-wise, that can't be ignored. And I don't know. Is it preserved because Ron's still there, or is it going to be, still kind of held back because he's still there?
I guess that's my worry, is that it just gets held back and we're just waiting. We're wasting one more year of Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, and then we're wasting Jahan Dotson's sophomore year just to give Ron Rivera another chance. And obviously that's a fantasy side, and I'm sure that the Washington Commanders specifically appreciate a figurehead who doesn't rock the boat and is very stable. So maybe
pretty conservative.
maybe that's leaning into him keeping the job here. So, but I just that's my fear is exactly what you're saying. I don't want to waste all the potential with not getting an offensive minded guy in there. And obviously, if you get the OC, but Scott Turner's pretty offensive minded, and that didn't really seem to matter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, you never know. Maybe new ownership, something weird goes down. It's, the pot hasn't cooled on the Ron Rivera thing, in my opinion.
True. Right on. Washington Commanders finish the season 8-1. They will have the 16th pick in the draft as it stands right now. So let's move on to another. Well, we still have the coach in Robert Saleh at the New York Jets. Mike LaFleur gets the axe. Kind of feels like another scapegoat almost. They are set to interview Nathaniel Hackett.
Wow.
So I guess, you always want a little piece of the Packers in some regard, whether it's the coach's brother or the old OC. So I'll kick it on over to y'all.
Yeah, a bit of a scapegoat situation here, especially how it was weird that like they didn't fire LaFleur. It was like mutual. It almost seemed like a Robert Saleh doing his buddy a favor instead of firing him. Like, hey, we got to make a decision. I got to let somebody go. Like, do you want to walk away? That's more the vibe it had to me. But on Nathaniel Hackett, like sometimes these guys just aren't meant to be head coaches. They don't run the team effectively. They don't make those kind of decisions. But we saw Nathaniel Hackett as an OC in 2020 and 2021 with the Green Bay Packers, and they had one of the best offenses in the league both those years. So I think it makes sense to like kick the tires on him, at least interview him, see where his head's at, and see if you can make that work. Because if he's not fully in charge, I think a lot of the problems that he had will go away.
Well, yeah, if he's not fully in Denver, I think a lot of the problems he had will go away. But yeah,
that's fair.
Like you're saying with the LaFleur thing, it's like, we had 3 different starting quarterbacks, still some health issues on the O-line a little bit, and then Breece Hall not being able to play his rookie season. Like, you guys started out pretty dynamite when everything was clicking.
Yeah.
And, great. All of a sudden, there's like, it's mostly a player problem. I don't think it was much of a coaching problem, but that's all right. Sometimes the organization needs a little blood to get past a season, and
sacrificial lamb.
Do it, man. But yeah, the team will bounce back. It'll be all right.
I think so. I mean, once they get a quarterback in New York, they're going to be good.
Yeah, man, they've been saying that for a while.
Since Joe Namath?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh, snap. Well, the New York Jets finished 7-10. They will have the 13th overall pick next year. So we'll see what they can do with that, with a possible new OC. Well, absolutely new OC. So let's go on to the Arizona Cardinals, where they did have, I believe it was a mutual with the GM, where he stepped away. I'm not sure if he's actually fired, technically.
That was a weird one, yeah. I think he walked away, yeah.
So he gone. They hired Monty Ossenfort, the Titans director of player personnel. And they also need a new head coach. So I'm guessing that's what he was brought in to do. So as it stands, they've set to interview Vance Joseph, Cardinals defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, Lions defensive coordinator, Ejiro Evero, Broncos defensive coordinator, Sean Payton, I think the name speaks for itself, DeMeco Ryans, 49ers defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, the former Dolphins head coach, and Frank Reich, the former Colts head coach. So seems like a lot of defensive coordinators. Maybe they're trying to flip the script here, but I'll kick it to you guys.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they were going defensive minded. You obviously got to hire a strong OC if that's your plan, but they don't really have many pieces on defense to build around. I mean, you got Buda Baker. That's it, really, that you can really truly build around, and he's getting up there in
Savon
age a little
Collins,
bit.
maybe.
Yeah, Xavier Collins, Isaiah Simmons has been hot and cold. I don't know, but I think obviously Cliff was fired because he never got the offense going the way he was supposed to. He was sub 20s in points and yards in 2019. He went to top 10 in 2020, but they missed the playoffs. And in 2021, he made the playoffs, but got destroyed. And then this year, they missed the playoffs again. And so it would baffle me that like you kind of fired Cliff because you have Kyler Murray and your offense isn't working well, and then to hire a defensive coordinator. To me, this leans really well to an offensive minded head coach coming in with the new GM. The new GM should be involved in hiring the new coach, and then you build this team around Kyler Murray since he's already there. You have the number 3 overall pick to help build that defense, bring in a stronger defensive coordinator. That's what I would do. But I guess you could flip it, bring in the strong DC as the head coach and an OC to run the offense. But I just think the other way would work better. But that's me.
Yeah, I think obviously I'd say they tried the offensive side, just anchor the defense. Like you said, they got the number 3 pick, get some game changer in there, which should be pretty easy to do. Will Anderson would probably be there if Chicago can trade out of that 101. And then, you go through with what you've got. You got Hollywood Brown. You still got Connor in there. Is Ertz still around? And your highest drafted offensive player and Trey McBride right there. And so you get Kyler Murray back, rally no line, and you're in good shape. They only got 16 million in cap space, so they're not going to make any huge changes. I think it's like you mentioned last week, I think a retooling kind of year. But as far as potential goes, I mean, you're right. You got Kyler. He can anchor this offense. We've seen him do it. You mentioned like the 13-0 start they had last year. The air raid just never really caught on. I don't know if they had enough health to make it work. And we all kind of been waiting for Cliff Kingsbury, who we called Cliff Kingsbury, because we thought like he was hanging on the edge of
claims to a cliff.
Yeah, exactly. He was one guest to win. Away from getting blown off the squad, and that shit came pretty strong. So, what's up, man? I'm with it.
And they can clear up some cap space by trading DeAndre Hopkins, which apparently is already on the table. With that being said, because you said Hollywood Brown too, I want to address. I'm seeing this like weird thing online where people are saying that Cliff Kingsbury didn't get like enough help from the front office, and I'll grant you, I like what you said about the health. I agree that maybe they weren't the healthiest and that kind of affected it. But come back to me, talk about he didn't get enough help. They drafted Kyler Murray the year he got there, right after drafting a first-round quarterback. They traded for DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of chips and then traded for Hollywood Brown. Like, get the fuck out of here. What more help did he need?
Well, and they continued AJ Green's career. Like, he was very useful. They brought in Robbie Anderson, which, like these are moves where if say the Chiefs had done these things, I would have been so pumped. Know? But the Chiefs did none of these things, right? They got MVS and Juju, and you're like, okay, we better hope these guys can still play well. But these are these are some big names they brought in to kick ass.
James Conner even.
Yeah, exactly.
Brought him in. Cliff Kingsbury got plenty of help. Also, enough shitting on him though. Did you see the baller move that he made with people calling him to interview for offensive coordinator jobs?
Yeah.
Where he just bought a one-way ticket to Thailand, said, "Peace. I'll be back." That's a baller
awesome,
move.
Dude.
I mean, that's a place to reset right there.
Yeah, literally just apparently respectfully told everybody he's not doing interviews. I'm going to Thailand. All right, fair enough.
Give him some time, There's going to be.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he'll be back. And maybe like Hack-ett earlier. Maybe he's another guy that just kind of needs to be more in the offensive role and not in charge of the whole team. Who knows? We'll see. He'll get another chance though, I would imagine.
Definitely. I also pointed out, I did mention Brian Flores interviewing that job. The new
Oh, that'd be
GM
so cool.
that they just hired was with the New England Patriots for 2006 to 2019, which in a large chunk of that was Flores. You know, he was there 2008 to 2018. So I don't know. I always like to make those connections because I didn't see anyone else on that list connected the way those two guys were. So just something to look out for.
I'm thinking like looking at Cliff Kingsbury dealing with Kyler Murray, and then looking at Brian Flores dealing with Kyler Murray. I'm like, feel like getting a little more control there on the second
I think so
configuration,
too. But yeah, as mentioned, or as Christian mentioned, they would do have the third overall pick, and did 4-13. So we'll go on as to the Atlanta Falcons, who still retain Arthur Smith. He's not going anywhere. They did relieve their defensive coordinator of his duties, and they do have an interview with Vic Fangio, the former head coach of the Broncos. Mentor of Ed Donatello, who somehow still has a job. But anyway, what do you guys think?
I mean,
what is there to say about the Falcons, you know?
They need players.
Yeah.
You know, Vic Fangio's great defensive mind, but you can only do so much. I don't know if this is an indicator that they're gonna lean heavily into the defense in the draft. That might be interesting for a team that was potentially going to draft a quarterback. But other than that, I think it just kind of makes sense. I don't know. I typically would like to lean to like younger candidates that you want to hang around. Vic Fangio's obviously done it for a long time, super well respected, so like I get it. I'd just be interested to see if they interview more people, or did they already hire him, or is it just an interview?
Interview.
Okay, so I'd be interested to see what else they do for that spot. But I mean, no one's going to be mad if you hire Fangio. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's right. Except for Chicago.
That's fair.
The one that got away. But yeah, I don't know what to say about Atlanta. I mean, it was kind of a null year, and Arthur Smith will get another chance. You know, hopefully everyone comes back healthy, and Drake London could be the rock star we want him to be. Tyler Algier to the moon.
Woo-hoo.
And then
Cordell Patterson going into his 33rd year as a human being. Like, come on.
What could go wrong? I do think it's smart to go defensively in that division, though. Feel like you can really lock down those struggling offenses and make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
But one person's opinion.
Yes, sir. So they finished 7-10, 8th pick in the draft. So with those top picks probably being quarterbacks.
They go from like leading the division to getting the 8th draft pick.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's pretty tight.
Pretty tight.
So up next, we have the Carolina Panthers, who do not have a head coach. Steve Wilkes ended that season after Matt Rule was fired. Steve Wilkes will get a chance to interview, if he hasn't already, Jim Caldwell, the former Lions and Colts head coach. Mike Kafka, Giants offensive coordinator. Ken Dorsey, Bills offensive coordinator.
You heard of him?
I sure have. Did you see the last episode? Shane Steichen, Eagles offensive coordinator. Frank Reich, former Colts head coach. Kellen Moore, Cowboys offensive coordinator. Jared Mayo, Patriots linebacker coach. And D'Amico Ryans, the 49ers defensive coordinator. They also wanted Ben Johnson, but as we know, Ben Johnson has decided to stick with his team. Man, ballsy move. Ballsy move, bro.
Yeah, we got a little Detroit, man.
You know that's the North, son.
That's right. It's cold, frigid up there. Oh, shit.
What to say about the Panthers? I mean, they are interesting. I mean, they have players, you know, they have DJ Moore down there. They've got Brian Burns. Those are two like solid pieces on offense and defense. But at the end of the day, they need a quarterback. It looks like based on I don't know. I guess it is about 50-50 now that I think about it. I was going to say it looks like they're leaning defense, but I don't think it is now. It looks like they're leaning offense. So that would lean into kind of what I was saying last week about the Panthers potentially being a dark horse to trade up and grab a quarterback, even maybe all the way up to number one. It makes sense. Hire a new offensive-minded head coach that you believe in, get him a quarterback that he wants, whichever one that is, and go from there. But there's just a lot of names, and there's just the Panthers are just kind of a bad team. I feel weird. I feel like Chuba Hubbard and why can I not remember his name? The other running back that was down there, Donta Foreman. We're doing really well in the running game over the last half of the season, but like a new coach is going to come in and fuck that up. So it's hard to figure what the Panthers are going to do.
Yeah, buddy. Yep, and they're over the cap, about $5 million, so they don't have a lot of money to play with. The skill position group is just DJ Moore and maybe Terrace Marshall Jr.
Terrace.
But it's a ghost town at tight end. Pretty much running backs, just Chuba now under contract next year. And then Matt Corral is the only quarterback under contract next year. So there's so many blank spaces for them to fill. It's going to be, I don't know, like the Panthers are just going to have to suck for like 15 years. And then eventually they might be decent. Like when our kids are cheering for them and continuing the podcast for us. I don't know. I guess that's going to be a good time. But it's a draft capital coming up. They do have like an extra second and fourth round pick from the Niners from that CMC trade. And then they got the 9th pick. Sorry, I know you're going to say that. But yeah, so their only third round pick is the one from the Niners. So there's a little bit of extra like day 2 kind of early-ish draft picks in there for them to do some work as far as like running back goes and wide receiver. But yeah, man, they might get sniped on that 9th pick trying to bring in a serviceable quarterback like a hot young name.
Yeah, they'll probably have to make a trade up if that's the route they want to go, which, like you're saying, they have the ammo to potentially make that work. If they do end up with 2 seconds still and they don't trade up, I do think they're a sneaky team to go out and grab like Jameer Gibbs or something. Just get another guy who can run and catch the ball, similar to Christian McCaffrey. Not that I think Gibbs will be Christian McCaffrey necessarily, but maybe. But so I could see them going that route to get like a stable superstar back there and kind of run the offense through while the young quarterback, if they manage to get one, figure shit out.
It's going to be rough, man. It's going to be hard. I don't know any Panthers fans. I don't know if there are any Panthers fans, but
there's like 6.
There better be.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough. I think going defensively is probably going to be their best bet.
Yeah, man.
Looking at this roster.
Well, I mean, you said they need a quarterback. You got Ken Dorsey, the Cam Newton whisperer. Whisper. When he was the quarterback coach in Carolina, he knows the culture. And then, of course, he coached a guy named Josh Allen up. So
who?
Josh Allen. The Stallion. But also, I hope he doesn't go there because I kind of want him to be successful. So.
Damn.
Ouch, dude.
Anyway, there's the Carolina Panthers. Like he said, like Daniel said, 9th pick in the draft, finished 7-10. They stank. And we'll go on to the Cleveland Browns, who have retained Kevin Stefanski. They did relieve their defensive coordinator of his duties and hired Jim Schwartz, the Titans' senior defensive assistant.
What's all these Titans guys getting hired everywhere?
Yeah, what is the deal?
That Mike Variable tree. Variable.
Hey, you guys were pretty bad this year. Let's hire you.
Yeah.
I saw like, yeah, okay, I guess.
Defense was real hot and cold.
No one hired the GM that traded away A.J. Brown, though.
So yeah, that's what I was.
Maybe it wasn't the coaching. Yikes. Cleveland, I mean, it's kind of like a hit snooze thing again, right? To give up all that capital for Deshaun, and it's all Deshaun or not Deshaun, you know? It's all on his shoulders. There's so much talent on this team that they should be successful.
Especially the defense.
Absolutely. And, I mean, you know, you're looking at the skill position, David Bell's the best rookie wide receiver, just hasn't popped yet. You got Amari Cooper and then Nick Chubb. David Njoku's fucking a beast now, so it's all there.
Jones.
It's all there. Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah.
Peoples-Jones looks great.
Yeah, he does. Whew. So,
I don't know. The Brown, it's confusing. I mean, Jim Schwartz has been a defensive mind in this league for a really long time and has been fairly successful, if I remember correctly. So, like, from that angle, if you just want to bring in, like, a coach that knows what he's doing to stabilize a team that you have talent, which they do, Myles Garrett, Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, JOK in the middle there, losing Clowney. But, you know, like, I think it makes sense, but like you're saying, just kind of hit the snooze. Like, it's just not a very exciting move. Makes sense, though.
it's definitely a stabilizing move.
Mm-hmm.
Considered, I mean, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter. But do they have how did they do this past year?
Oh, they went 7-10, but they do not own their first round pick, as we mentioned. They traded it for a Deshaun Watson, amongst other picks. So I don't even know if they have a second.
They do.
They
They
do?
have their own second.
They do have their own second. Okay, so if they have their own second. It'll be the 212. That's
Right
what we
on.
say. So that's the Cleveland Browns. Let's move on to the Denver Broncos, who need a new head coach after firing Nathaniel Hackett after his first year. Request to interview Sean Payton, DeMeco Ryans. You're kind of hearing the same names over and over. Raheem Morris, the Rams defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn, Cowboys defensive coordinator. Jim Harbaugh, that fucking guy. Jesus. I hope they fire him. Ezra Evero, their Broncos defensive coordinator, and David Shaw, the former Stanford head coach, which I don't know much about him. But moving forward, what do y'all think? Loaded roster, right? Didn't we say that all last year?
I'd say
Yeah,
for fucking years, man.
it depends. It depends on how this coach feels about Russell Wilson. I mean, that's going to be it. And there's things you can look to. They were averaging around 16 points with Hackett, 27.5 with Rosberg over the last 2 weeks. So some coach might get tricked into doing it. But don't be one of those people that gets tricked and thinks that a new coach is going to fix Russ immediately. Russ finished as the QB 17 this year. He missed 2 games. Last year, he finished as the QB 19, and he missed 3 games. So he wasn't that great last year. He wasn't that great this year. Just because Sean Payton shows up, if that's the guy they go to hire, I don't think that means Russell Wilson is immediately fixed. So if you're one of the people that's skeptical, you can use that to your advantage. Potentially trade Russell Wilson if you have him, if an offensive-minded coach goes there. But we have seen Russell Wilson be good for a really long time, and the last 2 weeks of the year, he did look a lot better. So you are playing the lottery if you try to get out of him.
Oh, Javonte Williams, dude. That's all this team needed. They just needed that energy. And they were without it. So wrong energy came in the house and it kind of blew the whole situation up. And it was horrible, man. It was horribly disgusting. So I think the easy fix for the Broncos is just to draft a quarterback at the end of the first round, make Russell sweat, and just make him become, some people need to be fucked with to unlock their true potential. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Just waste that first round pick on it. We call it the Jordan Love.
I was going to say, it's the Jordan Love.
Yeah. And it works.
It worked twice. 2 MVPs. But the other thing, you mentioned they're picking at the end of the first round. That's good for them to at least get a first round pick. It sucks that they're drafting like a contender when they only won 5 games this season. But like you're saying, Javonte Williams is coming back after injury. Hopefully he's able to recover from that. It was fairly early in the year, so hopefully he'll be able to start. And Jerry Jeudy had his best fantasy finish ever. He finished 22. Not incredible, but on that team with that offense, it's pretty good. And he looked like the guy that we kind of all thought he might be. So there's pieces. The defense is an amazing defense. So, like, there's pieces if Russ isn't broken for a coach to come in and get excited. But that's that's the thing, is that there's a lot of film from this year that seems to suggest that Russ might be broken. So
Yeah.
it is
What's
what
the
it is.
long con, dude? He wants to be comeback player of the year.
There you go.
Ah,
The
gotcha.
only
So you
one-
have to be
The
shitty.
only one he doesn't have.
Yeah.
He's not Lionhearted enough to just get hurt, huh?
Oh yeah.
Nope.
He's just got to
He
play
tried
like
that with
ass.
the finger thing last
Yeah,
year.
broke
Yeah.
my finger. Put me in a wheelchair.
He's like, wait, a finger doesn't keep me out the whole year? What is that?
I've seen it.
So, as mentioned, they do have the 29th pick in the draft, but that is from San Francisco. They did trade their first, which would have been the 5th overall pick, to Seattle for Russell Wilson. But what about this, guys? Russell Wilson for Sean Payton, straight up.
I like that.
Send him to New Orleans. Send Sean Payton to Denver.
I like that's already the 29th pick, too, man. Sorry, 49ers. You guys had a good run. Lost to the Eagles.
Oh, wow.
Motherfuckers.
I hope he goes to Denver, and I hope they don't trade Russell Wilson, and I hope the whole thing craters, and I'll get to enjoy all of it.
It's not going to happen, man. Not going to happen.
No, there's no way. There's no way a team's going to be willing to give up picks for Sean Payton and pay him. I wouldn't imagine. But
Yeah,
crazier things.
we'll see.
Oh,
Maybe.
I just don't think that Denver can pull it off. I think Sean
Yeah.
Payton end up somewhere, right?
I mean, he probably will. I don't
Payton was
want to.
traded for 2 firsts, man.
I don't want to go down this road necessarily, but I don't get it. I don't get the obsession with Sean Payton. Like, I don't understand a guy that won 1 Super Bowl in 2009 has been 7-9 3 years in a row and like lost every time he goes to the playoffs. Why everyone's all of a sudden clamoring to come get this guy
And
when he
cheated
couldn't
to
do
get the
anything
Super
with
Bowl.
Drew Brees. Yeah, and he fucking got suspended a year because he killed Brett Favre in the NFC Championship game. Like, he's one of those guys to me that, like, I understand it. Offensive mastermind. He's always in like the top, at worst, 12 of offenses. I get it. But I don't understand the idea that you're going to give up multiple first-round picks for this guy. Okay, go for it. Have fun. Like,
I love it.
Another team that he's interviewing for is our next team, the Houston Texans.
mhm.
High-powered offense. Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks,
Amari Rodgers.
Amari Rodgers. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. John Mechie coming back.
There you
Some
go.
other names was Ben Johnson, but as mentioned, he is going to stay with the Lions. D'Amico Ryans, Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles defensive coordinator. Ejiro Evero. I hope I'm saying that right. Broncos
Me
defensive
too.
coordinator.
I was
James
impressed.
Dychen, Eagles offensive coordinator. Mike Kafka, Giants offensive coordinator. And Thomas Brown, who was the Rams assistant head coach, tight ends coach. The Houston Texans, guys. The 3rd coach in 3 years.
Yeah, well, it didn't really count, did it? So, good job, Lovie Smith. I'm assuming they told you when they hired you that it was a 365-day lease on your career and that it would be over soon. And you never stood a chance.
That's why I went for 2, baby.
He went out on the most baller way possible, though.
Yeah, that was a huge middle finger. That was amazing, man. I mean, so when you're talking about the Texans, you've already laid out this sweet roster they have. They do have like some potential good, franchise pieces. But of all these teams that need a new head coach, they also have the most money to spend with $39 million. They're also coming in with some pretty sexy draft picks coming up next year. And they also have an extra first-round pick for the 2024 draft from Cleveland. So, not a lot of these teams can say they've already got, the 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years. So it's kind of a blank slate. There is money. The expectation is low. Like, they're not, it's not like Denver where they need something to happen immediately. I feel like the door's wide open for someone to come in here and just kind of retool this whole thing. I'm excited to see how it goes.
You would have free reign. The issue is, speaking of the 3 coaches in 3 years, who is going to trust the Texans to come in here and do it? You know what I mean? Like they've kind of showed their ass to the whole world a few times with the way they've handled these coaching situations. In my opinion, I don't know. It just seems like, damn, you just fired that guy. Like, how? Where's my security? You fired a guy 2 years in a row with their first season. Like, what if we have a bad year and you're giving me a roster that's ass? Like, Lovie Smith was given a roster that everyone looked at and said they're going to have the number one pick in the draft, and then they got the number two pick in the draft, and he still got fired. And it's like, well, what? It's not. Was it Lovie Smith's fault? I don't know. It was like they intentionally did it. So I think they're leaving themselves in a weird position that like I don't know that every candidate's going to feel super comfortable. Speaking of like D'Amico Ryan, somebody that played for the Texans, apparently, unless I'm getting this wrong, I'm fairly certain it was him. We might need to double check it, but I'm pretty sure they asked about him and he was kind of like not really interested, which is like a warning sign, especially from a player that played for that team. But to your point, if somebody can overlook that, you're right. Like they have the number 2 overall pick, they have the number 12 overall pick, 2 first rounders in 2024, and some decent players. You could build this roster however you want if you come in there. And then even the GM, I can't remember his name right now, but this is also why the Texans are weird, because the GM also said that he'd be willing to step down if the new coach wanted him to.
What?
So it's like, wait, what?
That.
So if somebody comes in and they're like, nah, fuck that guy, you're just going to bounce? So then why don't we just let go of you now and start the whole process? Like the Texans just feel weird.
Busted.
Texans just feel weird, but from the team building angle, they're probably like one of the more attractive options. I'd probably put Arizona first and then the Texans from the team building angle.
Yeah. I feel like this is a perfect place for Jim Harbaugh, man. You know? Come in with picks, come in with the reputation, a lot of momentum, and I think a lot of leeway would be given to a name like that as opposed to some of these first-time guys or like, you know, I don't know. Some of the guys you named seem like they'd be taking a risk where Jim feels like, I mean, you know, you get what you pay for. You know what you're getting with Jim, and I think he's going to come in and probably be a decent NFL head coach. Not in Denver. No, not in Denver.
No.
That's not his scene. I think he could come in and build a team pretty well, though, honestly. But
well, we'll have to see if he makes the list. We'll monitor that.
I'm not going to monitor it. I'm just wait for you to tell me when it's done.
You got it, buddy. You got it. They do have the number 2 overall pick after beating the Indianapolis Colts on a 2-point conversion, solidifying that number 2 where they would have had the number 1 pick. So good for you, Lovie Smith. I love that for you. The Indianapolis Colts, who we're going to talk about next, they are also coachless. Ken Dorsey's on this list, boys. Ken Dorsey's on this list.
Better be.
All these teams with quarterback issues, just throwing it out there. Dan Quinn also make it. D'Amico Ryans, which I've been saying that wrong the whole time. Eric Bieniemy, Chiefs offensive coordinator.
Hey!
Ejiro Evero, defensive. You got it. Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator. Raheem Morris, Rams DC. Aaron Glenn, Lions DC. Bubba Ventrone, the Colts special teams coordinator. All on the list to be interviewed. Also, Ben Johnson was on that list, but
not Jim Harbaugh, no.
Nah, dude. He's just trying to get a pay raise, man.
He's not going to get one.
They tried the former Colts player thing with Jeff Saturday. It didn't really go very well. Yeah. Isn't it weird that they fired Frank Reich at 3-5-1?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that odd?
Yeah.
Like, they weren't that bad when Frank Reich got fired. I mean, they hadn't been great, but then they came in.
Chiefs, dude.
Yeah, they were 3-5-1. They finished 4-12-1. Like, it seemed like Frank Reich. I think that's why Frank Reich's getting so many of these interviews. You've been saying his name all the time, and I think everyone's like, I don't know. He was fine until you had the dog shit Colts of this year, you know. But the Colts are super interesting, man. Hopefully they get a quarterback. Because if that offense starts running, Jonathan Taylor can have a better season because not everybody's going to be expecting that. Michael Pittman can start coming alive and being the guy that we all think he is, and Alec Pierce had an okay rookie season where he looked all right, if they bring back Paris Campbell, I think they should go offensive-minded head coach here and draft a quarterback, trade up to get the one you want, or pick one at 4. I think that makes the most sense because the defense was good this year for the most part. And they'll be getting Shaq Leonard.
Duh.
They'll be getting him back next year. Hell of a player. So, like, the Colts defense should be good if they can get this offense just to keep them competitive in games. Because that's really what it was. It's how they ended up losing to the Vikings is because they got a lot of help to get out in front of them, but the offense couldn't move the fucking ball. So they couldn't score any more points or even take time off the clock. So the Vikings were able to drag their way back into the game. Props to the Vikings, but also just incredibly bad offensive efficiency by the Colts.
Yep, it feels like a quarterback is they're one quarterback away. I mean, yeah, the defense is taut. You had DeForest Buckner in there, Stephon Gilmore still doing his thing. Didn't that come out of nowhere?
Yeah. Gilmore playing like a all-pro, maybe not all-pro, but playing really well.
No, it was tight, man, and just like I don't know. There's a lot to love about this team. There's just one thing missing. Apparently, it wasn't Nick Foles. Did they try that? You gotta try everything once.
Yeah.
How long have we? We'll be going into season 3 here soon of this podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I imagine the Colts will find a way to make me talk about them all off season, just like I have the other 2 rough draft research seasons. Because I'm with you. They have really interesting pieces, just like they have every year that we've been doing this. And now they're going to reset the expectations by hopefully getting a young quarterback in here. And if it's CJ Stroud, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. And I'm going to want all the Colts players. So they're going to do it again. I'm here for it.
Yeah, they seem like they have the most to gain by trading with the Bears to get that first spot. So I guess we'll see what happens, man.
All right. Well, they also need an offensive coordinator, but that will fall with the pieces once the head coach is hired. Last but not least on this list, the Tennessee Titans. They did let go of their general managers as hiring Ran Carthon, the 49ers director of player personnel. Mike Vrabel's the coach. They need an OC. Todd Downing, he DUI'd his way off that team real quick. So,
I don't think he had a chance anyway.
True that. We'll talk about it.
I love the Carthon move. I mean, I don't know anything about this guy, obviously, but I like the idea of, hey, that team has been drafting super well for the last 6-7 years, and their team is consistently good and has stayed good, even though they've had fluctuations. Why don't we see if somebody on that staff can help us out? That makes sense to me. It's the same thing that the Jets did when they got Joe Douglas off the Eagles. It's the same thing. This guy is doing well here. Let's at least, they know what they're doing. Let's bring him over. He's at least going to have some insight for us. So I love that move. And then just hopefully Vrabel was involved with picking the GM so that Vrabel and him are on the same page. And then they can go out and get an offensive coordinator. I think I like it. Obviously, again, I have no idea on Carthon's qualifications, how involved he was with the 49ers, any of it. But I think that move makes sense.
Yep. Just still scared about what this offense is what are you going to do? Hopefully Malik Willis just has a sophomore year that is currently not being hinted at, a success level that doesn't have any indications at this point. Then you got, we all know, we say this every year, we're going to spend the whole summer talking about how to get out of Derrick Henry before it's too late.
He'll be a top 5 RB again, probably.
I hope so, man. More power to him. But then, you're looking to hopefully Treylon Burks, probably that's a good guy to get in now before something good happens. But I don't know. I think about all this as a fantasy. Like, what's going to happen? Is it going to help me? Should I get in on these players before they blow up? And I don't see a lot of movement here with the Titans to get me too excited, except for Traylon. But I doubt anyone's really willing to part with them at this point.
Yeah, I don't really see. I see a lot of shakeup coming for the Titans. I think they could make some crazier moves that maybe we weren't anticipating. They kind of just feel like a team in limbo. But like you're saying, as far as I don't know who I'm trying to get on the Titans roster, unless somebody's trying to sell me Derrick Henry on the cheap for some reason, or Traylon Burks. But yeah, I want to see what's going on down there. I want to see what the quarterback situation is. They're probably, I would imagine, going to move on from Ryan Tannehill. Save quite a bit of money to do that.
For sure.
Malik Willis is on your roster. I would not go into next year with him as the starter. If it were me, I'd at least bring in somebody to compete with him, if not somebody to try and beat him. But yeah, I mean, Vrabel is a good coach and will make that team interesting. They just need like an exciting offensive hire for me to really get pretty excited about them.
Well, you can get excited if you pay cash at the hot dog stand at their stadium. You can get a hell of a discount.
Hell yeah.
You got a deal on a hot dog paying cash.
That's true. So
Fuck yeah.
if you're in Nashville and you're going to a football game, just flash that cash, man.
I need to go to Nashville. That's one stadium I gotta go. Well, I say one. I have most stadiums still to go to, but that's one of the ones I do.
Pretty decent. It was a pretty decent stadium.
I think they're talking about building a new one.
Yeah,
So.
it's
Nice.
pretty underwhelming. But, well, I did Google Rand Carthon, and there was speculation where Trey Lance put out a tweet of finger crosses. So I think they're trying to allude him, hey, maybe
Trade Trey Lance to Tennessee?
to Tennessee, something like that.
Oh God.
Seems like a
That'd be
lot.
fun.
Best case
Brock Purdy?
scenario.
Yeah, Brock Purdy in the house.
You know
Brock
how much
Purdy
we
and
love
Tom
our
Brady?
49ers.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh
But
god.
yeah, they also have not decided on anyone to interview for the offensive coordinator position. I'm sure that's
Probably
going to
waiting on. Yeah.
come down the road once Vrabel and Carthon kind of meet together. But I think that's it for now. I don't think
I got a
go ahead.
couple. I wanted to mention one thing we didn't talk about. Joe Lombardi for the Chargers got
Yeah,
fired,
Chargers. Yeah.
which I think is huge. I maybe kind of a little. No, I'm not going to call that one a scapegoat. I think Joe Lombardi should have done a little more with the pieces he was given. I'm surprised Brandon Staley didn't lose his job for the way he handled Week 18 and then losing. But bringing in a new offensive coordinator for Justin Herbert is extremely exciting, and I think would be real. Like that's something that people should be paying attention to, especially if you have Herbert in any superflex league whatsoever. I think the New England offensive coordinator situation is interesting. Bill Belichick was basically forced to admit that putting Matt Patricia in charge of the offense didn't really work. So those were the two I wanted to mention, and that was really it. I did want to say I think Mike McCarthy saved his job by beating the Bucks. Genuinely,
Oh, yeah.
I think if they had lost, he would have been fired.
Nice. I kind of wanted to recap the 8 new coaches,
Yeah.
the first year coaches for this past year, just so everyone knows. If you're timid, fantasy wise, I only do the fantasy. These guys talk about people in their careers and stuff, and I'm like, show me the stats. You know what I mean? So just so you know, if you should be scared or not scared based on what these guys are doing, we got Eberflus with the Bears. He comes in and immediately puts Justin Fields as a top QB. He was a QB7 on the year in only 15 games, and he didn't have a lot of weapons. The run game, like we're all about those running backs up there. So that's spicy. That's something to get excited about. We know Mike Zimmer lost his job, so they got a guy, KOC, come in. And I'm not going to get too into this, but they won the North, okay? So
Damn right, you can say that again.
everyone on that offense that was a baller maintained their baller status, so that's something to be excited about. Obviously, Mike McDaniels comes in, and that team, really put some money into the offense with Tyreek Hill. And if Tua had remained healthy, who knows? They could have finished atop the AFC. You never know. It's whatever. All right, so you got Dable up next. Saquon's back in the RB5 game. Daniel Jones is doing stuff you've never seen before. QB9, playoffs, and they're still rolling. Lovie Smith, I think we covered that. It wasn't ever going to happen. And then we got Nathaniel Hackett. Yeah, burnt. You burnt.
Burnt toast.
You go to Josh McDaniels, and he finally uses a running back, first-round running back, Josh Jacobs, produces an RB3 season. They trade for a wide receiver, Devontae Adams, wide receiver 3. Pretty incredible. They break Derek Carr. No big deal. And then you got Doug Peterson, still alive in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence is quarterback 8. Christian Kirk is wide receiver 11. Travis Etienne's got some baller games going on. And they got the tight end 5 and Evan Ingram. So I'm just saying.
Finally.
Yeah, 2 of these coaches have already been fired, but 2 of these coaches are still in the playoffs. So you got to do what you got to do. You got to trust what they can do. And one thing to look at, and I know we talked a lot about draft picks and a little bit about draft capital, but pretty much all of these teams, none of them really invested in skill position players in last year's draft. The highest drafted wide receiver was a second rounder with Wan'Dale Robinson, right? There were no day 1 or day 2 running backs drafted by any of these teams. So you got to look for them to, solidify the team. Obviously, if they need a quarterback, like these things are glaring and it's going to be obvious. But, defense, O-line, that's where people like to start to square up the team. So if you're looking at established players on any of these 5 teams we're talking about, getting new head coaches, it might be a good time to get them low off of a crummy year before something good happens, like kind of what I just described here. So
yeah,
throw that out
2
there.
Still in the playoffs. 4 made the playoffs.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
5 made the playoffs. 4 made the playoffs.
Plus, these new coaches want to come out and prove their worth and show that, like, hey, I'm using these people the way I should be, and da 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 da. So yeah, I'm on it. I like where your head's at. I think it's and building from the middle out, the line back out, offensive and defensive, is always the way to go. So, in my opinion, and so if you watch a new coach show up, and let's say, I don't know, you watch the Cardinals coach show up, and he only goes after defensive pass rushers and offensive linemen in the draft, and just focuses on retooling that offense, that's going to make me more excited than a new coach who shows up and trades for X, Y, and Z receiver, and it's a lot of exciting names, but not a very clear direction as much. So that's what I'll be looking for. The longer we do this podcast, the more signs I think we're trying to look out for and like continue dynasty success, and that's one of them. I think the trepidation of not wanting to go with rookie coaches, I think, is lost. I based on what you were saying, sounds like you're not going to really be that way anymore. And I was already leaning towards not being scared of new coaches anyway. So right. I think we're kind of on the same page on that.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking Jacksonville, baby.
Jax.
Jesus. Okay, well, shit. I guess, it's going to be an exciting offseason. A lot of names, a lot of new names, a lot of old names. Frank Reich to the Chargers OC. That just dropped in.
That'd be fun.
So, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Jim
Join us,
Harbaugh
man.
the
This
Texans
is we're about to get into our season 3, and we
Ooh.
crush some rookie scouting. Read the report, man.
The off season is
Elijah
our on
Mitchell,
season.
Ramondre Stevenson. You would have tuned into us. You would have already known.
That's right.
You done been knowing.
Claims to fame, but I still have a lot of fun with it.
Terry McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin, yeah.
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, dude. I'm amazing. Follow me on Twitter. It's a
Tyler
a full
Algier. What are you
W.
talking about?
Tyler Algier.
Tyler
I know,
Algier
man.
this year.
Listen, I'm looking. I'm fishing for compliments.
Curtis Samuel, 4 years removed.
Oh my god, Cole Kmet, and then trade him
Cole
before
Kmet.
it imploded. Yeah, I
Justin
you know,
Fields.
Devin Duvernay. What up?
All right, yeah, I don't know about that one.
I was into Antonio Gibson. I just needed Joe Burrow instead at the 2-2. So
That makes
do what
sense.
you gotta
Oh, I didn't realize we were redoing the Aaron grievances episode.
do. I'll just re-air my grievances. Boom.
All right. Well, take her easy, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Smoke them if you got them.